Going on YouTube, this is Mike with I Heart Knives. Thanks for coming back for another one. This time we're going to be doing a sharpening. In the first scene, you'll see I am doing just a newspaper cut test. That's just to see the quality of the knife edge. So after about 3 or 4 strops, time stropping of actually using the knife in the kitchen, I feel it's necessary to go back to sharpening. So this is the Shun Premiere. It's VG Max, which is basically VG10. It's just Shun's upgraded version, and it's heat treated to, I believe, like a 62 on the Rockwell. I'll be starting with a Shapton Pro 220 grit. That's like the greenish bronze colored stone, and I'll just sharpen until I feel a burr on the first side, and then I'll flip over to the other side, and I keep repeating that process about 2 to 3 times on each stone. And once I feel that I've flipped it 2 to 3 times, I'll usually do stropping and edge leading strokes to refine the edge a little bit. And here you can see the 220 grit finish on the first side, and then I'll go to the other side, and I'll keep doing this until I feel the burr flip. And once I feel the burr flip completely along the edge, I'll check it. I'll clean the blade off. I'm checking it, and then I'm showing you guys. Here you should be able to see there's actually paper towel like filament pieces where my fingers are pointing. You can see that there's little strands of paper towel stuck to the burr, and that was just a visual way that I could show you how I'm able to tell that the burr is there, but that you could see it more easily. Now I'm refining the burr, going to both sides. You can start with like 10 strokes on each side. I usually do about 5 or 6 on each, depending. Then to the next side, then back, and then to the first side again. So 3 to 4 times usually. Now I'm cleaning off the 220 grit stone, and the next stone that I'll be going to is the Shapton Glass 500. This was the Shapton Pro 220 grit stone. The Shapton Glass 500, it actually feels a little bit finer than just a traditional 500 grit that I've ever felt other than the Shapton Glass. They feel actually close to about a 1000 grit, but the scratch pattern that it leaves is a little bit more coarse than 1000 grit. It's obviously 500. This stone is incredibly fast. They're also very hard, so there's no need to soak. They're splash and go. All the Shapton Pro are as well. I've said it in previous videos that the lower grit, like the 220 grit and 320 grit, I like to soak for about 30 seconds to a minute. You can see how fast that was on the Shapton 500. The transition is really quick, and then I'll go to the Shapton Pro 1000. Honestly, you don't even need to do a transition stone. I just did it to help clean up the 220. But technically, you can go from 220 to 1000. It's not that big of a jump. So here I'm going first side on the 1000 grit, and the 1000 grit Shapton Pro is pretty quick. You can see that it doesn't load up. It just keeps keeps the slurry on top, and I keep getting fresh abrasive cutting, so it cuts really quickly. And I'll just keep going back and forth. Then I'll do a few strop motions. I'll do a fingernail test to make sure that the burr is in the center again. I like to get the burr to the center so that I can feel each side, rather than have it lean further to one side. Sometimes you can end up crushing your you know, crushing your burr, and it takes a little bit longer to get it back to the other side. So next is a 2000 grit Shapton Pro, and again it's another splash and go stone, and just keep doing the same thing that I've been doing. Start with one side, go to the other. Obviously you want to start with the side that has the burr if it's flipped to that side. Otherwise, if it's in the middle where the apex will be, you know, you have to just choose one side. And just keep refining. And as I climb stones, I also reduce pressure. So the 2000 and 5000 grit stones, I'm basically using just the weight of the knife. The 1000 grit stone, you can use a little bit of pressure. The 220 and 500, you can use, you know, a decent amount of pressure. But as you get a stone that's harder, you want to make sure that you reduce your pressure. The last stone that I'll use is the 5000 grit Shapton Pro stone, another splash and go. And just start with my first side, go to my next side. Again, no pressure, making sure that I keep my wrist straight and that the angle stays the same. It's not really important what angle you choose as much as it does, you know, as long as you make sure that you keep your angle the same. If you have a lot of variance and you move your blade a lot while you're sharpening, that's how you're not going to get a successful sharpening. And then toward the end, I do strop and edge leading strokes on the stone just to refine the burr even further. And just do a quick cut test on newspaper, how the edge is. And that's without stropping, you know, on a leather strop with compound or emulsion or anything, and you can tell it's really good. At the end, I'll show you it after stropping on leather, and I did make the mistake of using a crumpled up piece of newspaper, so it doesn't look like the edge is as good as it actually is. It's kind of misleading when you have really crumpled up newspaper, and especially if it's humid newspaper, it can make it seem like your edge is not as sharp as it actually is, but I can feel it with my fingers. Next, we're stropping on 3 micron chef knives to go diamond emulsion on horsehide. This is the flesh side of the horsehide, and I'll usually run it about 10 times on each side, plus or minus. I'll kind of strop and then feel my edge, and then strop again, and then just kind of as I see fit. You'll learn as you sharpen how to feel for your edge. Then I clean it off. Next, I'm going to 2 micron Ken Schwartz CBN emulsion on flesh side horsehide strop, and these are both mounted to just like a piece of poplar. The camera didn't want to focus on the writing at the end of the strop. It was having a tough time. So here we're just stropping, keeping our angle the same, making sure not to add any pressure. Just the weight of the knife is plenty. And the 2 micron CBN gets it real crisp. I'm feeling for the edge right now, and it's really crisp. Do a quick shave test on my upper arm, and it literally just like plows through. I try not to go too crazy because I'll just end up wiping all the hair off. Now that I shaved with it, I'll keep going with the 2 micron. just to refine the apex a little bit more in case the hair, in case the hair dulled any little bits of it, which it won't, but just to clean up the edge a little bit further. And here's the crumpled up paper I was talking about. You can see there we had a clean cut, and I was able to maneuver the knife up and down to wave, like to get a wavy cut. Push cutting is a little bit more tricky, especially depending if you go with the grain or against the grain. But I was able to get clean cuts. The newspaper was a little humid because it was in our basement, but yeah, it is what it is. The knife is sharp, and it is a kitchen knife, so I'm not trying to obsess over the edge. I want it to last a little while. I want to be able to strop it back. I don't want to go to, let's say, 12 or 16,000, where I can get incredibly keen cuts 3 or 4 times, and then that the VG Max is rolling over, because it is a softer, hard steel. It's not going to be like your incredibly hard 64, 65 Rockwell HAP 40. So that's it. I hope you guys learned something. If you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for coming along for this one, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Have yourselves a good day.